yeah, this is not going to end well in any way whatsoever. I really feel like we are moving into a space right now where you're going to actually own nothing and pretend to be happy. Everything is moving towards this space where the entire industry, even in consumer electronics, is getting exponentially more expensive with every sense of the word. And it is not only impacting the actual components, now apparently it's also impacting games themselves. And even when games are going to be set to be released. Yeah, we are crossing a Rubicon that we have never seen before, because right now trying to find any sort of RAM at all is an actual crime, seeing as how the prices of DDR5 RAM especially have skyrocketed exponentially, with Micron themselves leaving the entire consumer industry with Crucial and only focusing on AI specifically. And it turns out that Micron may not be the only one leaving the consumer-facing industry for their devices on either hardware specifically for PC manufacturing. Yeah, it's going to get really bad. So not only do we have the possibility of other major manufacturers in PC hardware leaving the consumer space, we also have massive increase of costs and prices basically just across the board. And to make matters even worse, it turns out that the one game basically everybody's been looking forward to could be on the shelf because of all these issues happening as well. I guess we're never really getting Half-Life 3 now, are we? Because according to WCCF Tech, Half-Life 3 is going to be a Steam Machine launch game, and Valve is targeting spring 2026 for both. But the announcement is being held back by RAM pricing issues. One of the biggest concerns I've had for the Steam Machine was in fact its hardware, having 8 GB of VRAM on the actual GPU. And of course, the other issue would be the 16 GB of RAM attached to it as well, with every single other major manufacturer basically focusing on completely with just AI. The cost of the actual Steam Machine that we broke down in a couple videos before was going to be around $700, which really would, in my opinion, basically make it dead in the water, being far too expensive for that kind of price and that kind of performance as well. The issue is though, because of RAM being a major impact right now, we could be seeing the Steam Machine being pushed back even further or being released with a price that would not be conducive to actually being successful in the first place. And on top of that, even delaying Half-Life 3. But the article says even more, so let's go from there. In the latest episode of the Insider Gaming Weekly podcast, journalist Mike Straw provided an update on the Half-Life 3 situation. According to his sources, Valve is holding back the announcement due to the ongoing RAM pricing issues affecting the PC industry, which will inevitably impact the price of the Steam Machine, since the game is supposed to be the big launch title for the new hardware. It doesn't make sense to reveal it until they are ready to go forward with the Steam Machine. The original launch window was spring 2026 for both. Now here's the thing, I can totally see Valve doing that exact same thing. Not about having a killer app or an exclusive as part of the Steam Machine, but the fact that they've done this before, especially with Half-Life Alyx and the Steam Index as well. Granted, that thing was about $1,000 and Half-Life Alyx should have been ported to every other VR platform in my personal opinion. But the thing is, you can clearly see Valve using their largest IP to go through and say, hey look, if you buy a Steam Machine, you get a copy of Half-Life 3 as part of the actual bundle as well. Remember, they also did this with Half-Life 2 when they launched Steam in the first place, and nobody liked Steam when it launched in the first place, even when it was packaged with Half-Life 2. So things can definitely be occurring with Steam directly and with Valve on what they want to do with the Steam Machine specifically. But of course, the biggest factor right now with everything happening isn't just whether or not Half-Life 3 will be bundled with the Steam Machine. The biggest factor right now is the price of RAM in the industry, as we've seen exponential prices just increase out of nowhere and even get even crazier. In fact, here's a perfect example. Nick Tech on Twitter said this: how do they have the audacity to say that RAM is quote on sale? I don't think anyone's crazy enough to fall for this and think they're saving money, with a picture of 120 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM at $1,494. With executive AFK zooming in on the actual image, showing the $722 for 120 gigabytes of RAM, basically black markered out. showcasing that they are literally increasing the prices exponentially across the board. And that's a scary part about all of this, is watching these RAM manufacturers go around and say, hey, look, we're going to increase the prices on consumers, but also go back and make business contracts and renegotiate those agreements as well. So we could be seeing Valve in a negotiating battle between all three major RAM manufacturers, whether it's SK Hynix, Samsung, or even Micron, about how much RAM they're going to be needing, what kind of RAM, and how much it's going to cost them, which could definitely impact the price of the Steam Machine itself. But of course, Mike Straw has even more insight about what's going on too. The window that I was told was spring 2026 for the Steam Machine, for the Steam Frame, for the Steam Controller, for Half-Life 3. At the end of the day, the game is real. There's no denying it. It's just a when and not if at this point. All the signs pointed to it being announced in December. Then everything hit the fan, and I think it was a case of that concern. The Steam Machine was supposed to be Q1, like the end of Q1 2026, but I'm starting to wonder if that hardware is going to be pushed out. And that's going to be the biggest issue with all of this, seeing these AI companies just basically gobble up massive amounts of RAM. All these companies like SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron basically turn around and say, you know what, screw the customer consumer. We're only going to focus on the AI specifically and the data center specifically. That's also going to be a problem as well, because now what's happening is every customer is being squeezed out of every single aspect. And now the typical gamer waiting for basically one of the biggest games of all time to come back out and finally get an announcement date, because the hopium is honestly real, is getting even worse, because now that game could be delayed due to the RAM shortages and impacting the Steam Machine as well. I'm excited for the Steam Machine, seeing an actual baseline of PC configurations and systems being able to be used for a lot of developers to go through and say, hey, look, here's the base that we can use for, and then optimize up from there would make PC ports better in general. Having a good space for people to go through and buy a simple, affordable device to play PC games on and get into Steam as well, seeing how good it is for a consumer perspective, is also a great sign too. But it costing $800 or $700 or even $1,000 due to the RAM pricing issue is not going to be a good thing at all for anybody, because if you're going to spend that amount of money, you might as well just get something even better as well. And I think that's what these companies are shooting for, going around and stopping the low entry barrier, raising the floor of pricing across the board, making it almost impossible for only the people willing to shell out that kind of money to go through and actually buy that hardware specifically to own the games that they want to play, thereby forcing people, again, into cloud services as well, which many companies are already starting to do, showing that is the cure to the poison they're already fighting to give you. But not just that, it turns out that even other manufacturers are having a hard time too, because we may be even going backwards in terms of actual performance. Take a look. Also, according to WCCF Tech, memory shortages could force laptop makers to rely more on 8GB configurations, according to a new report. And this is where I think the funniest things are going to come to fruition, because having laptops powered by AI with 8GB of RAM really makes no sense whatsoever, all because of the actual push for AI. And the funniest thing about all of this isn't just the fact that we are now going back from 16 gigs of RAM down to 8. The funniest part is that Microsoft themselves even stated that AI Copilot powered PCs need 16 gigabytes of RAM to function correctly. So hold on. I'm losing my mind about this. We are now in the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. You need 16 gigabytes of RAM for it to function correctly for the AI system, but you're gobbling up so much RAM that the only way people can actually have manufacturers go through and provide laptops for people is to have 8 gigabytes of RAM in the first place, or else you can't sell it because it's too expensive. There it is. There it is. Instead of using simply AI as a tool, they're trying to use everything to replace it, and turning around and buying up every single piece of DRAM available to you is now causing everything to regress backwards rather than forwards, which is what everybody wanted in the first place. But of course, it gets worse, because it's not just laptops. It's basically everything else on your PC now. Because it turns out that WCCF Tech also posted this yesterday, and it doesn't look good. Saying, quote, some GPUs are reportedly facing price hikes, raising concerns that a crypto-like pricing cycle could reemerge, driven by its part in rising DRAM costs. with the article saying that, quote, the NVIDIA RTX 5070 series is seeing rapid price hikes in Japan. The RTX 5070 Ti and 5070 both increased by $50 to $100 in price this month. Oh, but you thought we were done? No, we're not done there. See, not only are we paying exponential prices for RAM, now also it turns out GPUs are increasing in price as well. But NVIDIA wasn't the only one. AMD is also reported to increase the price of their GPUs too because of the AI bubble and the fact that both NVIDIA and AMD are now actually going around and having deals directly with OpenAI. They're basically just trading IOUs back and forth between each other, and we are literally in the actual essence of a literal bubble. Yes, this is an actual bubble with AI companies and actual GPU manufacturers and DRAM manufacturers all basically just trading money back and forth with each other, trying to make as much money as possible, if you want to put money in quotations, and trading back IOUs. This entire thing is going to burst. But of course, as always, it's going to get worse because it's not just RAM, it's not just GPUs, it's also going to be your SSDs as well. According to PC Gamer, Samsung will reportedly announce the end of SATA SSD production next year. Multiple industry sources suggest adding to our memory pricing woes. Now, I know what some people are saying, Alex, who even uses SATA SSDs anymore in 2025? That's ridiculous to say. Who cares, am I right? That doesn't impact me whatsoever. Well, it actually should, because if they start with SATA SSDs, then they're going to move on to NVMEs. And the big problem is there's only 2 slots for NVMEs on most motherboards. So if you need more space beyond that, you're going to have to move to SATA. And that's where the things get really concerning, because we've also reported recently on here in the channel too that Samsung has also been internally fighting between its own mobile division to go through and ask for RAM for their own cell phones, which Samsung has clearly said they're not doing that and that would never happen. And it turns out Samsung said the exact same thing about the SATA SSD issue. They were denying claims that they would never do something like that to go ahead and remove SATA SSDs from production. We'll see how long that lasts, because if Micron wanted to leave consumer parts altogether, I'm sure Samsung will try something like that too. But you see, it's not just the actual SATA SSD that's the issue. It turns out things are going back even further and getting even worse still. Because also according to WCCF Tech, HDD prices are surging under severe supply pressure, making the largest rise in 8 quarters according to a new report. That's right, baby. We're going to return to monkey, apparently, because things are going to go from bad to worse. Not only is it delaying Half-Life 3 in the Steam machine and the Steam frame and the Steam controller, so we're impacting games. Not only are they raising the prices of RAM, but also GPUs. Not only is the possibility of SATA SSDs being gone as well, but now HDDs, you know, those platters on a disk that we used to have back in the day that you had to defrag all the time, those are seeing price increases as well because of the massive surge of everything going on and people not being able to afford anything at all. We are going back in time. We are losing everything we've gained forward in technology, all because of AI. And we're losing everything across the board from every aspect overall, simply because every company wants to force AI into every single product when it doesn't do anything for the customer or consumer. And it's not even being used properly as an actual tool. Yes, it's going to impact everyone and everything. It's even gotten so bad, Nintendo's feeling the pressure too. Because according to Tom's Hardware, the Nintendo Switch 2 RAM had a price increase of 41%. NAND flash was up 8%, and console giant shares nosedive in the face of increased cost warnings. So it turns out those of you still on consoles may in fact be having a harder time as well, as we are also looking into the next generation of systems like the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox Magnus. We're seeing the Nintendo Switch 2 possibly also get a price hike due to the increase in pricing of RAM itself in the industry. We are adding to a long list of issues that AI is causing across the entire board, not only just in gaming, but in technology as well. And the lack of ownership is going to be incredibly really scary. We're seeing every single company basically just walk around and do everything they possibly can to line their pockets with everything happening in AI, and the RAM crisis is in fact getting worse because it's spreading not just from RAM, but to basically every single part of a personal computer. And like it or not, your consoles are also personal computers. They require RAM, they require SSDs, they require everything possible to function correctly. And these exact same companies like AMD and Nvidia and Intel and Micron and Samsung and SK Hynix, they're all working together to inflate their pocketbooks with AI money, yet at the same time, they're going to charge you more money for those consoles specifically. Literally nobody is safe, because now we're also seeing games like Half-Life 3 being delayed because of the AI issue, and even hardware that we should be getting at an affordable price is also having a problem as well. This is all going to hell in a handbasket in the worst possible way. And the meme, in my opinion, is actually true, because I really feel this is in fact a bubble that is going to burst faster than anybody can predict. And here's why. According to Nicole Miller on Twitter, Microsoft is scaling back AI goals because almost nobody is using Copilot. And Windows Central has also reported that Microsoft's share slide puts them into 4th place behind Google, with shares down 5%. What's going on? It's artificial intelligence, of course. Is the bubble bursting? Not yet. I really think it's going to burst, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. And hopefully, though, this is a massive wake-up call for what's going to be happening with AI itself. You see, Microsoft has their own AI. It's called Copilot, and they're literally forcing it into everything. Now, they're putting it into Samsung TVs as well. So, they've also been heavily invested into AI specifically. And you're going to bet your sweet bippy that you're going to be seeing AI into the next Xbox console being implemented, seeing because they want to make Windows the best place to play, but that's where things are going to get really sticky as well. Where is Microsoft going to make the cut on how much systems should cost and what's going to be happening with the consoles moving forward, and what are they going to be sacrificing? Because Satya Nadella is specifically working on the AI side of Xbox and Microsoft, not on the console space anymore. So this could be a bigger factor overall, not just in the AI space and tech space, but also in the gaming space as well, because you're going to be seeing so many other companies focus on this aspect. And when the bubble finally bursts, the one thing that's going to be happening is seeing every single company come crawling back to the consumer, lowering all the prices and watching enterprise parts flood the entire market, because I can bet that's what's going to happen next. And when the bubble does burst, it's going to get even worse for everybody across the board, because all those devices that are AI powered may not even in fact function correctly after everything has been demolished. And things might get even worse, because now everybody's going around trying to strip AI out of Windows specifically. You can go on to GitHub and find that out right there. It's very easy to do. And this is going to be the problem, the big fight between everyone, having control and ownership of what's happening, yet watching the market dictate each other and telling when they can release products, what they can do with products, or how much things are going to cost, simply because these companies are all basically in bed with each other, honestly, across the entire board of trying to line their pockets with IOUs, simply because AI is a bubble that is in fact going to be worse before it gets better. And that's the problem with all of this. We're seeing AI basically just completely fuck over every single thing that's been happening in the gaming industry, whether it's increasing prices of actual PC components so you can't build your own PC anymore, whether it's games being delayed, the Steam machine being delayed, the Steam frame being delayed, actual games themselves being delayed, laptops going back to 8 gigs, everything else across the board, even with GPUs increasing in price as well. This is not a good sign for anyone. But the funnier part to me is going to be this: when the bubble inevitably bursts, and that will happen, by the way, it's going to have massive ramifications, because all those AI systems that are being forced into everything are no longer going to function correctly. And when they don't function, they're going to flood the actual market with all those enterprise level chipsets, causing a massive downturn in cost for the consumer themselves to buy those parts and hardware to have their own devices. Either that happens, or the entire thing goes completely haywire, and the only way we're actually going to be able to play our games is through the cloud, because everything else will be too expensive to even do anything by then. Either way, we're fucked. because seeing Valve try to struggle with all of this, seeing every other major company struggle with this is not a good sign for anybody. And no one in this entire space is safe. I can more than likely bet you're going to be seeing a price increase for the Switch 2, or dare I even say another price increase for the PlayStation 5, the PS5 Pro, and even the Xbox Series consoles, marking this as the actual third time those systems get an increase, which of course would actually be a proper reason to use the term market conditions. But you know what? Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section down below. Are you dealing with these price increases? Have you been impacted by this as well? Or are you hoping to just sit back and ride out and wait for the bubble to burst to go ahead and capitalize on everything there at that moment in time? Hopefully, though, this all deflates quickly and doesn't have a massive issue, because if a burst does happen, it's going to be bad. I mean, real bad, like .com, but worse bad. If you're old enough, you'll know what that is too. But I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments section down below, so let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. If you want to see more of this kind of content though, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, and even live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 99K subs, and I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want Discord access or emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Just show up Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, live right here on this channel as I stream for about 800 people and get insulted with AITTS. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Saturday nights, live, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you Gooners next time. Peace!